Welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. Is our moon the Death Star? It's a pretty outrageous statement, and I want to take you through my uh, thought process on this whole thing, where I've gotten to the point where I asked that question. Um, First, I did a video about three moons of Saturn. Initially, it was about one moon of Saturn, but it ended up being, as I did research, it ended up being about three different moons of Saturn that appear to be Death Stars. Now, when I say Death Stars, I mean they're moons that orbit the planet, but they're not natural. They appear to be just like in Star Wars, where there's a Death Star. It's a huge spaceship, essentially. It's artificially created, look like a moon, though. It's spherical, and in the first Star Wars, when they first see the Death Star, if I remember correctly, they say, "What is that? Isn't that a moon? Isn't that its moon? No, no, it's not a moon. It doesn't have a moon." And it turns out to be the Death Star. Well, it appears that Saturn may have three of them. And I'll put a little card up there now so you can take a look if you'd like. Click on that link and see the work I did in that regard and the journey I took. That initially, I should give attribution to that as well. That the idea originated with Richard Hogan. I didn't give attribution when I did that video, so I want to in this one. That idea originated with Richard Hogan, and I'd read it like a decade earlier. So then, when I did this video, I said, "All right, I'm going to take my own thought journey and do my own research without referencing back to Hoagland." So that was all my own original research, but the idea absolutely came from Hoagland. I just did the research real quick. So, um, I, three Death Stars. Wow, that's incredible. So now I had done just last week, I think it was a few days ago, I did a video about our own moon, evidence that our own moon is artificial as well. I've done a couple videos in that regard. The most recent one was the one a few days ago. It's called "Is Our Moon Artificial?" I want to expand upon that because there's more that happened that I didn't mention in that one, and I think it's pretty fascinating. I want to take you through that. So, uh, again, in this last video, I'm going to post a card to it there so you can see it. Is our moon artificial? I lay out, like, I've always seen this, and I've never seen it mentioned, where there's lines on the moon. Any photograph of the moon you can see, if you look at the moon through a telescope, you can see it. There appear to be lines going down the moon from pole to pole, and to me it made the moon look artificial, and I never heard it mentioned by anybody else, and I never heard any natural explanation for it. So that was the last video. Now, with all this knowledge, that's, the moon being artificial, that potentiality, I've known that for decades. I always thought to myself, okay, if we have these Death Star kinds of things in Saturn and the moon is artificial, it was a Death Star too. So then I said to myself, okay, so the moon is a Death Star. There's a dark side of the moon. That's the side that's got the gun. I'll put up the Death Star and its likeness to one of the Saturn's moons. You can see, wow, they look just the same. Even if you're looking close on that Saturn moon, it has a wall around its equator, a perfect wall around its equator. It's bizarre, it really is. Looks artificial, the moon, and it looks just like the Death Star of Star Wars. So I expected something similar on the dark side of the moon, the part of the moon that never faces the Earth. When they say dark side, it's because we never see it. It's always facing the other side, away from us. We never see it unless we send a spacecraft to photograph the other side, which I knew we had done. So this is what I thought. I said to myself, I bet you that it's got something there that's the gun. And when it was ultimately moved here, I'm certain they didn't want to point the gun right at us and scare the shit out of us all the time at this point, because it was a different phase, a different era, a different age, moving on, this thing is busted, let's not point it at them. And they pointed it away. But it's there. That was my hypothesis. And I said, well, eventually I'll see something that with the dark side of the moon that has on it. So then Anton Petrov has his own YouTube channel called What the Math, I believe it is. I'll send a card up there so you can take a look at it. He's got a great channel. He did a video that I was watching, and he has a 3D graphics where you can go look at anything in the universe. You go to stars. It's just really cool, and it's all 3D. So, and when he does his videos, you can see that the whole background is a 3D thing that he can move around. He was doing one on the moon, and he went around to the dark side of the moon. There it is. I knew I'd come across it one time. I just never bothered to do the research. Just kept something in the back of my mind. Eventually, I'll find what the dark side of the moon was, and I'll get confirmation or not. And there it was, that confirmation. So I'm gonna show you the dark side of the moon right here, and if you can see that upper part, the round, looks like the like the gun of the Death Star, a little smaller. I'm not going to get into the specifics on why it might be smaller. But wow. Now, here's what's interesting as well. I'm going to put up another photo that I found of the dark side of the moon that I should have done the research. I'll post it in the comments down below. I neglected to. What this photo specifically, what type of wavelength it uses or whatever. But if you take a look at it, this particular photo of the dark side of the moon, I did look at the lines going from north to south. Those are plates. The moon is making segments. It's artificial. Look at that. When I found this, and it's right from Wikipedia, where I typed in dark side of the moon, boom, I saw that, and I saw it, look at that. It's artificial. To me, it's obvious. Like, share, subscribe, or dislike if you don't like it. Like, dislike, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'd be interested what anybody else thought about this. I think almost certainly the moon is artificial based on what information I've seen. Thanks for watching.